Why do you do what you do? Have you ever stopped to think that your simplest gestures, your food preferences, even the time you spend in the bathroom can reveal deep secrets about who you really are? The truth is scary. You don't know yourself as much as you think. In this video, I'm going to reveal 60 shocking psychological facts that will make you question absolutely everything about your behavior and the people around you. Get ready to discover why that friend addicted to chocolate has a specific personality trait, what anger really reveals about intelligence, dark secrets about couples who watch adult content together, and yes, what bathroom time says about your mind. These aren't random facts. They're scientific discoveries that explain your relationships, decisions, failures, and successes. Warning: some truths will make you uncomfortable. Others will make you laugh in recognition. But all of them will completely change how you see human beings. Are you ready for this disturbing journey? 1. If someone loves chocolate a lot. People who crave chocolate intensely are often dealing with magnesium deficiency or emotional voids. The brain releases dopamine when consuming chocolate, similar to falling in love. Those who constantly reach for chocolate bars might be unconsciously self-medicating for depression or anxiety. The darker the chocolate preference, the more likely they're seeking genuine emotional regulation. This craving intensifies during stress because chocolate contains compounds that temporarily boost serotonin levels. Next time you see someone hoarding chocolate, understand they might be fighting invisible battles. Their pantry could be their survival kit for emotional storms. 2. When someone gets angry. They're more optimistic. Anger makes people significantly more optimistic, not pessimistic. Furious individuals take bigger risks and make bolder decisions because rage triggers the same brain regions as confidence. When you're angry, your mind shifts from cautious to action-oriented, making you believe you can overcome obstacles. Athletes use controlled anger to push beyond limits. However, this optimism is dangerous because it blinds you to real threats. Angry drivers think they're invincible. Enraged employees quit jobs without backup plans. The fury creates an illusion of power that can lead to remarkable achievements or devastating mistakes depending on how you channel it. 3. Couples who watch adult content together. Couples who view intimate content together report higher relationship satisfaction. The shared experience creates unique bonding that builds trust and opens communication channels about desires. This vulnerability often translates to better conversations about needs and boundaries that otherwise remain unspoken. However, the benefits only appear when both partners genuinely consent and feel comfortable. Forced participation creates resentment and disconnection. The key is not the content itself, but the mutual exploration and honesty it facilitates. These couples also show higher emotional intelligence scores, suggesting that navigating this sensitive territory together strengthens their ability to handle other difficult conversations. 4. People who take longer to use the bathroom. Those lengthy bathroom sessions are not always about biological needs. Studies reveal that people who spend extended time in the bathroom are often seeking solitude and mental reset. In our overstimulated world, the bathroom becomes a socially acceptable escape room where nobody questions your absence. Your brain uses this isolation to process information, decompress from social interactions, and restore cognitive resources. This is why you suddenly remember things or solve problems while sitting there. Some individuals subconsciously extend their time because it's their only daily moment of complete privacy. If someone vanishes for 30 minutes, they're probably protecting their mental health. 5. Why you forget when entering a room. Walking through a doorway literally erases your short-term memory. Scientists call this the doorway effect. Your brain treats each room as a separate episode, filing away the previous context. When you cross that threshold, your mind closes one chapter and opens another, sometimes forgetting why you came. This happens because human memory evolved to compartmentalize experiences by location for survival. Our ancestors needed to remember that the cave had bears and the river had fish. Modern homes trigger this ancient mechanism. To counteract it, verbalize your intention before moving. Creating an audio memory alongside the physical movement helps bridge the mental gap. 6. The secret of people who talk to themselves. Self-talk is not madness, it's genius. People who narrate their actions out loud, perform tasks 20% more efficiently than silent workers. Speaking to yourself activates multiple brain regions simultaneously, strengthening focus and memory retention. Athletes use self-talk to boost performance during crucial moments. Students who explain problems aloud score higher on tests. This happens because verbalizing thoughts forces your brain to organize information coherently, catching errors that internal monologue misses. Children naturally talk to themselves while learning. Adults who maintain this habit retain better problem-solving abilities. The most successful CEOs admit to having full conversations with themselves. 7. Why sad music makes you feel better. Listening to melancholic songs when you're depressed actually reduces sadness faster than upbeat music. Your brain recognizes emotional validation in sad melodies, creating a sense of being understood. This recognition triggers the release of prolactin, a hormone that produces feelings of consolation. Sad music becomes a safe friend who does not judge your pain. Trying to force happiness with cheerful songs creates cognitive dissonance. Your actual emotions clash with the imposed positivity, increasing distress. Melancholic music matches your internal state, allowing genuine processing instead of suppression. This is why breakup playlists work therapeutically. The minor chords give permission to feel fully. 8. The hidden power of boredom. Boredom is your brain's way of demanding better stimulation. When you're bored, your mind is not idle. It's actively scanning for meaningful engagement. This restless state activates the default mode network, which generates creativity and self-reflection. The most innovative ideas often emerge from boring moments like long commutes or waiting rooms. Modern society's fear of boredom drives constant phone checking, which actually prevents the creative breakthrough that boredom facilitates. Children who experience regular boredom develop superior problem-solving skills because they learn to generate their own entertainment. Adults who can tolerate boredom show higher resilience and better emotional regulation. That uncomfortable emptiness is your mind preparing for something brilliant. 9. Why you cannot tickle yourself. Your cerebellum predicts and cancels out self-generated sensations, making self-tickling impossible. When you attempt it, your brain knows exactly what's coming, where, and when, eliminating the surprise element essential for tickling. This predictive cancellation exists to help you distinguish between self-touch and external contact, which is crucial for survival. If you could not differentiate, you'd constantly react to your own movements. However, people with schizophrenia can sometimes tickle themselves because their prediction mechanisms malfunction. Interestingly, robots can tickle you if there's a slight delay between your command and their action, reintroducing unpredictability. This reveals how much sensation depends on mental expectation and surprise. 10. The truth about first impressions. You form a complete judgment about someone's trustworthiness in 100 milliseconds, faster than you can consciously think. These snap judgments are surprisingly accurate, remaining stable even after extended interaction. Your unconscious mind processes facial symmetry, eye contact, posture, and micro-expressions instantly. This is why job interviews emphasize the first 30 seconds so heavily. However, first impressions contain dangerous biases. Attractive people seem more trustworthy, and those who resemble someone you know inherit that person's reputation. Understanding this does not disable the mechanism. Your brain will judge instantly regardless, but awareness allows you to consciously question whether your gut feeling reflects reality or prejudice. 11. Why sleeping on decisions works. Your sleeping brain solves problems your waking mind cannot crack. During REM sleep, your brain reviews the day's information, forming unexpected connections between seemingly unrelated concepts. This is why difficult decisions become clearer after a night's rest. Sleep strips away emotional noise and social pressure, allowing your unconscious to weigh options objectively. Dreams reorganize memories and test scenarios, essentially running simulations of different choices. People who make major decisions immediately show 40% more regret than those who wait overnight. Your rested brain also accesses the prefrontal cortex more effectively, improving judgment. When facing life-changing choices, sleeping on it is scientifically optimal. 12. The danger of too many choices. Excessive options create paralysis, not freedom. When facing more than 7 choices, your decision-making ability actually decreases, while anxiety increases. Supermarkets with 24 jam varieties sell less than stores offering 6 options because abundance overwhelms the brain's comparative capacity. This explains why streaming services with thousands of movies leave you watching nothing. The paradox of choice converts entertainment into exhausting work. Your brain evolved to handle limited options. Modern excess triggers decision fatigue. After evaluating numerous alternatives, you either choose nothing or make worse decisions. People in societies with fewer choices report higher life satisfaction. The solution is creating personal constraints. Less variety means more mental energy for decisions that actually matter. 13. Why you remember terrible experiences better. Negative memories stick harder than positive ones because survival depends on remembering dangers, not pleasures. Your brain tags threatening experiences with emotional intensity, ensuring you'll never forget harmful situations. This negativity bias served our ancestors well, but tortures modern humans who cannot forget embarrassing moments from years ago. You'll remember one criticism from a presentation more vividly than 10 compliments because your brain prioritizes threat detection over reward recognition. This explains why traumatic events create lasting memories while happy moments fade. The imbalance is not depression, it's evolution. Overcoming this requires conscious effort like actively rehearsing positive memories or writing gratitude journals. Without intervention, your brain naturally becomes a highlight reel of worst moments. 14. The real reason you procrastinate. Procrastination is not laziness, it's emotional regulation. You delay tasks that trigger negative feelings like anxiety about failure, fear of judgment, or resentment toward the work itself. Your brain chooses immediate mood repair over long-term benefits. This is why you cannot just do it despite knowing the consequences. The task itself might take 30 minutes, but the emotional discomfort feels unbearable. Procrastinators are not time managers, they're emotion managers struggling with feeling regulation. Interestingly, you probably do not procrastinate on activities you enjoy, proving it's not about discipline. Breaking the cycle requires addressing the underlying emotion. Ask yourself, what feeling am I avoiding? Once identified, you can process that emotion directly. 15. Why smiling makes you happier. Your facial expressions do not just reflect emotions, they create them. Forcing a smile activates the same neural pathways as genuine happiness, tricking your brain into producing corresponding feelings. This facial feedback hypothesis explains why people who smile through difficulties recover faster from stress. The physical act of smiling reduces cortisol and increases endorphins, creating real biochemical changes regardless of your actual circumstances. Botox users who cannot frown report difficulty experiencing deep sadness because their face cannot send distress signals to their brain. This works inversely too. Constant frowning intensifies negative emotions. Your face is essentially a remote control for your mood. Strategic smiling during hard times is not toxic positivity, it's neurological intervention. 16. The power of handwritten notes. Writing by hand activates brain regions that typing does not touch. The physical act of forming letters creates deeper neural encoding, improving memory retention by 34%. Students who take handwritten notes outperform laptop users on comprehension tests even though they write less content. This happens because handwriting forces processing and summarization. You cannot transcribe verbatim, so your brain must interpret and condense information. This active engagement creates stronger memory traces. Typing enables mindless transcription without understanding. Additionally, handwriting activates fine motor skills that connect to language centers, creating multiple neural pathways to the same information. Love letters written by hand carry more emotional weight because the effort itself communicates care. 17. Why you buy things you do not need. Shopping triggers the same reward circuits as addictive drugs. The anticipation of purchase releases dopamine, creating a high that has nothing to do with actually needing the item. This explains buyer's remorse. The emotional crash after the dopamine fades, and you realize you bought another kitchen gadget you'll never use. Retailers exploit this by designing stores to maximize anticipation through attractive displays, limited-time offers, and strategic product placement. Online shopping amplifies this with one-click purchasing that removes the natural pause of physical transaction. You are not weak-willed, You are neurologically vulnerable. The solution is not willpower, but awareness. Implement a 48-hour rule before non-essential purchases. If the desire persists after the chemical high fades, maybe you actually want it. 18. The secret language of eye contact. Holding eye contact for 7 to 10 seconds creates intimacy faster than hours of conversation. This duration signals interest and confidence without crossing into aggressive staring. People who maintain appropriate eye contact are perceived as more trustworthy, competent, and attractive than those who look away. However, cultural context matters enormously. Some societies interpret direct eye contact as disrespectful. Breaking eye contact downward suggests submission or shame. Looking away horizontally indicates casual thought. Liars do not necessarily avoid eye contact. Many overcompensate with excessive staring because they know the stereotype. The eyes also dilate when viewing something attractive, creating unconscious reciprocal attraction when someone notices. Your eyes communicate volumes before you speak a word. 19. Why music from your youth hits different. Songs from ages 12 to 22 create neural pathways that remain uniquely powerful for life. Your adolescent brain undergoes massive development, and the soundtrack of those formative years becomes neurologically entwined with your identity formation. This explains why music from your youth triggers overwhelming nostalgia that newer songs cannot match. It's literally wired differently in your brain. The emotional intensity of adolescence amplifies these memories. Your first heartbreak, rebellion, independence struggles all have songs attached, creating multisensory memory packages. Hearing those songs later does not just remind you of those times. It partially recreates the neurological state you inhabited then. Every generation believes their music was better because neurologically, for them, it was. 20. The hidden cost of multitasking. Your brain does not multitask, it task switches rapidly, and each switch costs cognitive energy. Every time you toggle between activities, your brain needs time to reorient, creating cumulative inefficiency. People who think they're excellent multitaskers are usually just comfortable with lower quality work. Research shows multitaskers take 50% longer to complete tasks and make twice as many errors compared to focused workers. The illusion of productivity comes from feeling busy, but actual output decreases. Chronic multitasking physically alters your brain, reducing gray matter in the anterior cingulate cortex, which controls empathy and emotional regulation. This explains why constantly distracted people struggle with emotional connection. Your attention is finite. Single tasking is the new superpower. 21. Why nostalgia feels bittersweet. Nostalgia serves as psychological immune system, activating during loneliness or uncertainty to remind you that life has been good before and can be again. The bittersweet feeling combines loss of the past with gratitude for having experienced it. Your brain uses nostalgia therapeutically, boosting mood and self-esteem during difficult times. However, excessive nostalgia prevents present engagement. You cannot build new memories while exclusively replaying old ones. The past becomes dangerously sanitized through nostalgia, erasing the struggles you actually experienced and creating false paradise you cannot recreate. Moderate nostalgia is healthy. Obsessive nostalgia indicates avoidance of current challenges. Nostalgia is universal across cultures, but the triggers vary through scents, songs, locations, or seasons. 22. The truth about confidence. Confidence comes from action, not thought. You cannot think your way into confidence. You must behave confidently despite fear, and the feeling follows. This is why fake it till you make it actually works. Your brain interprets your bold actions as evidence of capability. Waiting to feel confident before acting creates permanent paralysis. Confident people are not fearless. They've simply practiced acting despite fear enough times that the action becomes habitual. Each small success builds neurological evidence that you can handle challenges. Confidence is a skill, not a personality trait. Believing confidence is innate gives you an excuse to avoid the uncomfortable actions that build it. Stop waiting for confidence to arrive and start collecting evidence through action. 23. Why you hate the sound of your own voice. You hear your voice differently than others do because you experience it through both air conduction and bone conduction. Vibrations traveling through your skull add bass frequencies that external listeners do not hear. When you hear a recording, you're hearing only the air-conducted sound, which sounds higher and thinner than your internal experience. Your brain expects the bone-conducted version and finds the recording jarring. This disconnect creates discomfort. Additionally, you've never heard yourself speak except from inside your own head, so any external version seems wrong. Interestingly, others do not find your recorded voice strange because it matches what they've always heard. The version you hate is actually your real voice. 24. The power of doing nothing. Your brain's most important work happens during rest, not activity. The default mode network activates during downtime, consolidating memories, processing emotions, and generating insights. People who schedule regular do-nothing time show increased creativity and problem-solving ability. Modern culture treats constant productivity as virtue, but your brain needs idleness to function optimally. This is not laziness. It's essential maintenance. Studies show that insights occur during rest periods following focused work, not during the work itself. Walking, showering, or staring out windows allows your unconscious to organize information your conscious mind could not crack. If you're constantly busy, you're preventing the cognitive processing that converts information into wisdom. Your best ideas arrive during nothing moments. 25. Why you feel lonely. In crowds, loneliness is not about being alone. It's about feeling unseen. You can feel profoundly lonely surrounded by people if those connections lack depth or authenticity. Surface-level interactions with hundreds of people create more isolation than meaningful conversation with one. Social media amplifies this through thousands of followers, but nobody who knows your struggles. Your brain craves quality connection, not quantity. One person who truly understands you satisfies the need for belonging better than a crowd of acquaintances. This explains why popular people often feel desperately lonely. Visibility is not the same as intimacy. The loneliest moments often occur at parties where you're performing a version of yourself that nobody really knows. The cure for loneliness is not more people. It's more authenticity. 26. The science of overthinking. Overthinking creates problems that do not exist. Your brain evolved to predict threats, but modern safety means it applies that vigilance to social situations and future scenarios. Each thought spawns branches of possibility until you're paralyzed by fictional disasters. Overthinkers do not think better. They think more, confusing rumination with problem solving. Real problem solving leads to action. Overthinking loops endlessly without resolution. This happens when anxiety hijacks your analytical capacity, running threat simulations on repeat. The exhaustion comes from mental energy spent on imaginary problems. Breaking the cycle requires recognizing when you've shifted from productive thinking to destructive spiraling. Set a timer and think about the problem for 15 minutes, then decide or let it go. 27. Why apologies often make things worse. Bad apologies inflict new harm while pretending to heal old wounds. "I'm sorry you feel that way" is not an apology, it's blame reassignment. "I'm sorry" but negates everything before the but. Real apologies require 3 elements: acknowledgement of specific harm caused, genuine remorse, and commitment to different behavior. Without all 3, you're just performing apology theater that often deepens the original hurt. Many people apologize to restore their own comfort, not to address the other person's pain. This self-serving apology leaves the hurt person feeling used twice. Additionally, premature apologies prevent full understanding. Rushing to sorry stops the necessary conversation about what actually happened. Sometimes the most respectful response is listening without immediately defending yourself. 28. The hidden meaning of messy spaces. Your physical environment mirrors your mental state. Cluttered spaces often indicate decision fatigue, overwhelm, or avoidance rather than laziness. Each item in a messy room represents a delayed decision creating background mental noise. Your brain tracks all of it subconsciously, draining cognitive resources. However, some research suggests that creative people thrive in disorder. The visual chaos mirrors their divergent thinking patterns. The difference lies in whether the mess stresses or stimulates you. Forced organization can stifle creativity for some, while others cannot think in chaos. Know yourself. If mess creates anxiety, cleaning becomes mental health care. If mess feels inspiring, embrace it despite judgment. The danger is mess created by avoidance. 29. Why you cannot forget embarrassing moments. Your brain treats social rejection as physical pain, activating the same neural regions. Embarrassing moments threaten your social standing, which evolutionarily meant survival risk. This is why you remember that awkward thing you said 5 years ago with vivid clarity. Your brain filed it as survival-critical information. The spotlight effect intensifies this. You believe everyone noticed and remembers your embarrassment when they were likely focused on themselves. Research shows that others remember your embarrassing moments 10% as much as you do. They were busy worrying about their own performance. Your brain's negativity bias replays these moments to prevent future social threats. But modern society's changing contexts make this protection obsolete. That joke that bombed years ago does not predict future success. 30. The power of strategic silence. Silence in conversation creates discomfort that often reveals truth. When you resist filling pauses, others rush to fill the void, frequently saying more than they intended. Negotiators use this ruthlessly. Staying silent after an offer pressures the other party to concede. Therapists employ silence to allow clients to access deeper thoughts. In conflict, silence can communicate more than words like disappointment, contemplation, or refusal to engage with manipulation. However, silence wielded punitively becomes emotional abuse. The difference is intention. Strategic silence serves communication, while punitive silence wounds. Learning when to speak and when to let silence work is a rare skill. Most people cannot tolerate even 5 seconds of quiet filling space with meaningless words. Sometimes the most powerful response is none. 31. Why you are attracted to familiarity. Your brain prefers the known to the potentially better unknown. This familiarity bias explains why you keep returning to the same restaurant despite mediocre food, stay in comfortable but unfulfilling relationships, or resist career changes. The familiar feels safe because it's predictable. Your brain evolved to choose safety over opportunity. Ancient humans who avoided unknown territories survived longer than adventurous explorers. Modern life punishes this instinct. The comfort zone that protects you also imprisons you. Growth requires deliberately choosing unfamiliar discomfort. Interestingly, repeated exposure to anything, even objectively unpleasant things, increases liking. This is why terrible songs become catchy through repetition. Your brain mistakes familiarity for goodness. Is this familiar thing actually good or just comfortable? 32. The truth about forgiveness. Forgiveness benefits you more than the person who hurt you. Holding grudges keeps you neurologically connected to past harm. Your brain rehearses the offense repeatedly, releasing stress hormones each time. This continuous activation damages your cardiovascular system and weakens your immune response. Forgiveness is not about excusing behavior or reconciling with harmful people. It's about releasing your own suffering. People who forgive show lower blood pressure, reduced anxiety, and better sleep quality. The act of forgiving rewires neural pathways, breaking the rumination cycle. Interestingly, you can forgive without ever telling the person. Forgiveness is an internal process that frees your mental space for present experiences. The person who hurt you might never know or care, but your health improves regardless. Forgiveness is selfish in the best way. 33. Why you mirror people you like. Unconscious mimicry creates social bonding. When you like someone, you automatically copy their gestures, speech patterns, and expressions. This mirroring happens within milliseconds and strengthens connection by signaling similarity. People feel more comfortable with those who mirror them because it suggests shared understanding. Skilled salespeople and therapists use deliberate mirroring to build rapport. However, excessive or poorly timed mimicry feels creepy rather than connecting. The key is subtlety. Natural mirroring is unconscious and selective. You mirror actions that represent the qualities you admire. Interestingly, the reverse also works. Deliberately mirroring someone you do not like can trick your brain into feeling warmer toward them. Your body language does not just reflect feelings, it creates them. 34. The illusion of multitasking productivity. People who multitask constantly believe they're more productive when they're actually less efficient. Brain scans show multitaskers have less dense gray matter in regions responsible for cognitive and emotional control. The constant task switching creates a dopamine addiction loop. Your brain rewards the novelty of new tasks, making you feel accomplished without completing anything substantial. This explains why you can spend hours being busy, yet achieve nothing meaningful. Heavy multitaskers perform worse on tests measuring attention span, memory, and task-switching ability. The irony is profound. The people who multitask most are actually worst at it. Breaking this addiction requires deliberate single-tasking practice. Start with 15-minute focus blocks. The discomfort you feel is withdrawal from dopamine hits, not actual inability. 35. Why bad news spreads faster. Negative information travels 6 times faster than positive information. Your brain is wired to prioritize potential threats, so bad news captures attention immediately. This negativity bias made sense evolutionarily. Ignoring danger could kill you, while missing good news just meant a lost opportunity. Modern media exploits this ruthlessly. Fear and outrage generate more clicks, shares, and engagement than positive stories. Each exposure to negative news triggers stress responses, but your brain cannot distinguish between actual threats and reported ones. Consuming constant bad news creates chronic stress as if those events were happening to you. People who reduce news consumption report significantly improved mental health. You do not need to stay informed about every tragedy worldwide. Selective ignorance protects your nervous system without making you irresponsible. 36. The secret behind gut feelings. Intuition is not magic. It's pattern recognition operating faster than conscious thought. Your unconscious mind processes millions of data points from past experiences, detecting patterns before your conscious awareness catches up. This is why experts in any field develop reliable gut feelings. They've accumulated so much pattern experience that their unconscious can make accurate predictions instantly. However, gut feelings are only reliable in areas where you have genuine expertise. A doctor's intuition about symptoms is valuable. Your intuition about stocks without financial knowledge is probably anxiety. The danger comes from trusting feelings in domains where you lack experience. Your gut might be detecting real patterns or just reflecting biases and fears. Wisdom is knowing when to trust intuition and when to demand evidence. 37. Why you remember song lyrics but forget names. Music engages multiple brain regions simultaneously, creating stronger memory encoding than simple verbal information. Lyrics attached to melody use rhythm, emotion, and repetition, forming multiple neural pathways to the same information. This is why you can sing every word of songs from decades ago, but forget the name of someone you met yesterday. Names are arbitrary labels with no inherent meaning or emotional connection. Your brain struggles to prioritize random information. However, if you create associations, like connecting someone's name to a vivid image or rhyme, retention improves dramatically. The technique works by mimicking music's multi-pathway encoding. Teachers who set lessons to music report better student retention. Your brain remembers stories and patterns far better than isolated facts. 38. The psychology of complaining. Chronic complaining rewires your brain toward negativity. Each complaint strengthens neural pathways for seeing problems, making future complaining easier and more automatic. Within minutes of complaining, your cortisol levels rise, damaging neurons in the hippocampus, which affects problem-solving and emotional regulation. People who complain regularly train their brains to scan for problems rather than solutions. This creates a self-perpetuating cycle where life genuinely seems worse, because your brain is filtering for negative information. Additionally, complaining is contagious. Listening to complaints for 30 minutes impairs cognitive function in the listener. However, venting differs from chronic complaining. Occasional expression of frustration followed by problem-solving is healthy. The difference is whether you're processing emotions or reinforcing victimhood. Choose your audience carefully and complain strategically. 39. Why rejection hurts physically. Social rejection activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. Brain scans of people experiencing social exclusion show activity in the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, the region that processes pain sensation. This is not metaphorical. Your brain cannot distinguish between a broken bone and a broken heart at the neurological level. This happens because social connection was survival critical for ancient humans. Exile from the tribe meant death. Your brain still treats social rejection as a physical threat. Interestingly, taking acetaminophen reduces emotional pain from rejection, just as it reduces physical pain. This reveals how deeply intertwined physical and emotional pain systems are. Understanding this helps contextualize why heartbreak feels unbearable. It is not weakness or drama. Your brain is genuinely processing a survival threat. 40. The power of writing down goals. People who write their goals are 42% more likely to achieve them than those who just think about goals. Writing activates the reticular activating system, a network of neurons that filters information your brain notices. Once you write a goal, your RAS begins identifying opportunities and resources related to that goal, essentially programming your brain to scan for relevant information. Additionally, writing creates psychological commitment. The physical act transforms abstract wishes into concrete intentions. Publicly sharing written goals amplifies this effect through social accountability. However, talking about goals without writing them can actually reduce achievement. Verbal sharing provides premature satisfaction, tricking your brain into feeling accomplished without doing the work. Write goals privately, share progress selectively, and let results speak louder than intentions. 41. Why you look worse. In photos than mirrors. Mirrors show a reversed image you've seen thousands of times. Your brain prefers this familiar reversed version. Photos show how you actually look to others, which seems wrong because it's unfamiliar, not because it's worse. This mere exposure effect makes the familiar seem more attractive. Additionally, mirrors are interactive. You naturally adjust angles and expressions to present your best self. Photos capture frozen moments, including unflattering expressions you'd never hold consciously. Three-dimensional movement looks better than two-dimensional snapshots. People judge your attractiveness based on dynamic expressions and presence, not static images. Interestingly, others generally prefer photos of you because they're seeing the version they know. The photo you hate is actually closer to how others see and like you. 42. The science of why arguments escalate. During heated arguments, your amygdala hijacks rational thinking. Blood flow shifts from the prefrontal cortex to the limbic system, essentially shutting down your ability to reason. This is why you say things you regret and cannot remember logical points you wanted to make. Your brain enters fight or flight mode, treating the other person as a threat rather than a partner. Winning becomes more important than understanding. This physiological state can last up to 20 minutes after the trigger. Attempting to resolve conflicts while in amygdala hijack is futile. Both parties are literally incapable of rational discussion. The solution is recognizing the signs like increased heart rate or feeling mentally blank and taking a genuine break. Resume conversation only after calm returns. Forcing resolution during activation creates lasting damage. 43. Why anticipation beats reality. The anticipation of pleasure activates reward centers more intensely than the actual experience. Your brain releases dopamine during expectation, creating a high that reality rarely matches. This explains why planning vacations often feels better than taking them, and why anticipating purchases exceeds the joy of ownership. The gap between expectation and reality creates disappointment even when experiences are objectively good. However, understanding this allows strategic happiness manipulation. Maximize anticipation by planning experiences in advance. The weeks of excited anticipation provide more cumulative happiness than the event itself. Conversely, dread works the same way. Anticipated pain feels worse than actual pain. When facing unpleasant tasks, reducing anticipation time by doing them immediately minimizes total suffering. Your relationship with future events matters more than the events themselves. 44. The truth about willpower depletion. Willpower functions like a muscle, becoming exhausted through use. Each decision or resistance depletes your self-control reserves. This is why you eat healthy all day but binge at night, or remain patient at work but snap at family. You've burned through your willpower budget. However, recent research suggests willpower depletion might be partially psychological. People who believe willpower is unlimited show less depletion than those who believe it's finite. This means mindset affects capacity. Strategic approaches help regardless of belief. Make important decisions when rested. Reduce daily decisions through routines and habits. Automate choices like what to wear or eat for breakfast. Every automated decision preserves willpower for choices that matter. Successful people protect their willpower through rigid routines, saving mental energy for critical moments. 45. Why some people are always late. Chronic lateness rarely reflects disrespect or poor time management. Research shows it often correlates with optimism bias. Late people genuinely believe they can accomplish more in a given time than is realistic. They underestimate task duration and overestimate their speed. This cognitive error persists despite repeated evidence of being wrong. Additionally, some people experience time differently. Type A personalities perceive a minute passing in 58 seconds, while Type B personalities perceive it in 77 seconds. This neurological difference means chronically late people are not procrastinating. They genuinely think they have more time. Understanding this does not excuse habitual lateness, but it explains why telling someone to just leave earlier does not work. They need to objectively measure task durations rather than trust their flawed time perception. 46. The psychology of hoarding. Hoarding is not about stuff, it's about emotional regulation. People who hoard often experience significant loss or trauma. Objects become symbolic security against future loss. Discarding items triggers genuine distress because the objects represent safety, memories, or potential future needs. The clutter provides physical evidence of life lived and possibilities preserved. For hoarders, letting go of objects feels like abandoning parts of themselves or loved ones. This is why organizing help fails. The problem is not inability to organize, but inability to emotionally release. Treatment requires addressing underlying attachment issues and grief. Additionally, hoarding correlates with indecisiveness and perfectionism. If I cannot decide the perfect use for this item, I'll keep it until I can. The accumulation represents delayed decisions more than material attachment. Understanding reduces judgment and improves intervention approaches. 47. Why you feel drained after social events. Social interaction requires constant cognitive effort even when enjoyable. Your brain monitors body language, tone, word choice, and social rules simultaneously while suppressing inappropriate impulses. This mental load depletes energy regardless of whether you like the people. Introverts deplete faster than extroverts, but everyone experiences social fatigue eventually. Additionally, impression management is exhausting. Presenting a socially acceptable version of yourself while monitoring how others perceive you demands sustained attention. Small talk particularly drains energy because it requires engagement without meaningful reward. The brain finds substantive conversation less tiring because the content provides stimulation that offsets the social effort. Understanding your social energy budget allows better planning. Schedule recovery time after events. Recognize that needing solitude after socializing does not mean something is wrong. 48. The hidden benefit of negative thinking. Defensive pessimism improves performance for some people. Rather than positive thinking, imagining worst-case scenarios motivates preparation and reduces anxiety. When pessimists envision everything going wrong, they create action plans for each potential problem. This preparation paradoxically increases success rates and reduces stress when challenges arise. They've already mentally rehearsed solutions. Forcing pessimists to think positively actually impairs their performance because it removes their coping mechanism. However, this only works as defensive pessimism. Ruminating without planning is just anxiety. The difference is whether negative thoughts lead to constructive action or paralysis. Some people genuinely perform better expecting the worst and preparing accordingly. Positive thinking is not universally optimal. Know your motivational style and use it strategically rather than fighting your natural tendencies. 49. Why you cannot not think about something. Thought suppression backfires spectacularly. Telling yourself to not think about something requires monitoring your thoughts for that exact thing, which means constantly thinking about it. This is the ironic process theory. The more you try to suppress a thought, the more it dominates consciousness. Dieters who forbid themselves from thinking about cake think about cake constantly. Insomniacs who try not to think about sleeping cannot sleep because they're monitoring whether they're thinking about sleeping. The solution is counterintuitive. Accept the thought without judgment. Acknowledge it exists, then shift focus to something else rather than fighting it. Trying to suppress thoughts gives them power. Acceptance removes their charge. This is why anxiety reduces when you stop fighting anxious thoughts and just let them exist. Resistance amplifies. Acceptance diffuses. 50. The science of why time accelerates with age. Time perception changes because each year represents a smaller percentage of your total life experience. At age 5, 1 year is 20% of your life. At 50, 1 year is only 2%. Your brain encodes time proportionally, making each year feel progressively shorter. Additionally, novelty slows perceived time. Children experience everything as new, creating dense memories that make time feel expansive. Adults settle into routines where days blend together. Your brain does not encode repetitive experiences as thoroughly, creating memory gaps that make time seem to have vanished. Want to slow time down? Introduce novelty regularly. Travel, learn skills, break routines. Novel experiences create distinct memories that expand perceived time. The antidote to life-speeding past is deliberate new experiences that force your brain to pay attention. 51. Why gratitude journals actually work. Regular gratitude practice physically rewires your brain toward positivity. Writing 3 things you're grateful for daily activates the prefrontal cortex and increases dopamine and serotonin production. Within 3 weeks, brain scans show measurable changes in the anterior cingulate cortex, which regulates emotions. This is not placebo. The practice creates neurological changes that persist even after you stop journaling. Your brain becomes trained to scan for positive information rather than threats. Additionally, gratitude reduces cortisol by 23%, improving sleep, reducing inflammation, and strengthening immunity. The effect compounds over time. People who maintain gratitude practices for months show increased resilience and decreased depression, comparable to medication. However, generic lists lose effectiveness. Specific details matter. Instead of, "I'm grateful for family," write, "I'm grateful my sister called when she knew I was struggling." Specificity maintains neural engagement. 52. The psychology of road rage. Cars create psychological anonymity similar to online disinhibition. Encased in metal, you feel separated from social consequences, lowering normal behavioral restraints. Additionally, driving requires sustained attention while offering little control. Traffic, other drivers, and road conditions are unpredictable variables you cannot influence. This combination of high demand and low control creates perfect conditions for stress and frustration. Your nervous system enters threat mode. Other drivers become obstacles rather than people, dehumanizing them and enabling aggression you would never display face-to-face. Recognizing this does not excuse road rage, but explains its prevalence among otherwise reasonable people. The solution involves reframing the situation. You cannot control traffic, but you can control your response. Accepting lack of control, paradoxically, reduces stress. 53. Why breakups hurt more than rejections. Breakups sever established neural pathways built over time. Your brain literally reorganizes around important relationships, integrating that person into your identity and daily routines. When the relationship ends, your brain must prune thousands of connections, which is neurologically painful. This is why you feel physically ill after breakups. Additionally, breakups trigger withdrawal symptoms similar to addiction because relationships create dopamine dependencies. Your brain became accustomed to regular hits from that person. Sudden cessation creates genuine withdrawal, including anxiety, depression, obsessive thoughts, and physical pain. Rejection from strangers hurts, but does not require neural reorganization. The depth of pain correlates with the depth of neural integration. This is why breakups from long relationships hurt more than early dating rejections. Your brain is literally restructuring itself. 54. The hidden power of morning routines. Morning routines reduce decision fatigue and set neural patterns for the entire day. Your brain is most mentally fresh upon waking. Using this window for intentional activities rather than reactive ones establishes psychological momentum. Starting the day, checking emails or social media triggers reactive mode, making your entire day feel controlled by external demands. Starting with chosen activities like exercise, reading, or meditation establishes agency. Your brain interprets this as evidence that you control your life rather than responding to others. Additionally, consistent morning routines reduce cortisol spikes associated with waking. Your nervous system learns mornings are safe and predictable. People with established morning routines report lower anxiety and higher productivity throughout the day. The specific activities matter less than the consistency and intentionality. 55. Why you remember insults forever. Negative social feedback triggers stronger memory encoding than positive feedback. Your brain tags insults as social threats requiring memory retention to avoid future harm. This evolutionary mechanism protected against exclusion from social groups. One insult can overshadow 100 compliments because your brain prioritizes threat information. Additionally, insults often target insecurities you already suspect are true. External validation of internal fears creates especially strong encoding. You might forget generic criticism, but remember forever the insult that confirmed your secret worry. This is not weakness. Your brain is doing exactly what evolution designed. However, understanding the mechanism allows conscious intervention. When you catch yourself rehearsing an old insult, recognize it as outdated threat information. The person who insulted you might not even remember saying it while you've replayed it thousands of times. 56. The truth about comfort zones. Your comfort zone expands or contracts based on use. Every time you avoid discomfort, your tolerance shrinks. Every time you push through, it grows. This is neuroplasticity in action. Your brain adapts to whatever you repeatedly do. People who consistently choose comfort find increasingly more things uncomfortable. People who regularly face discomfort expand what feels manageable. This creates diverging life trajectories. The person avoiding discomfort finds their world shrinking. The person embracing discomfort finds their world expanding. However, growth requires strategic discomfort, not random suffering. Choose challenges aligned with your values and goals. Pointless suffering does not build character. Purposeful discomfort expands capacity. The key is distinguishing between fear that warns of genuine danger versus fear that signals growth opportunity. One protects you, the other imprisons you. 57. Why explaining increases understanding. Teaching material to others is the most effective learning technique. When you explain concepts, your brain must organize information coherently, identify gaps in knowledge, and translate complexity into clarity. This process reveals what you actually understand versus what you just memorized. Additionally, teaching activates different neural pathways than passive learning. You're not just receiving information, but actively processing and restructuring it. Students who spend time teaching material to peers outperform those who spend the same time rereading. The act of explanation forces deeper engagement than consumption. This is why talking through problems out loud helps solve them. Verbalizing requires organizing thoughts more rigorously than internal monologue allows. If you cannot explain something simply, you do not understand it yet. 58. The psychology of chronic lateness. To bed. Revenge bedtime procrastination describes deliberately staying up late despite exhaustion, because daytime felt controlled by others. Your evening is the only time that feels truly yours. Sacrificing sleep becomes an act of reclaiming autonomy. People in demanding jobs, or with young children particularly, struggle with this. They recognize they should sleep, but cannot relinquish those precious hours of freedom. The behavior is self-sabotaging but psychologically logical. You are prioritizing immediate agency over future well-being. Unfortunately, chronic sleep deprivation compounds the stress that drives the behavior, creating a vicious cycle. Breaking it requires addressing the underlying lack of autonomy. Can you create pockets of free time during the day? Can you reduce obligations? The solution is not better sleep hygiene but more daily autonomy. 59. Why you judge yourself differently than others. You judge yourself by intentions but others by actions. When you make mistakes, you know the context, constraints, and good intentions behind your choices. You grant yourself understanding. When others make mistakes, you only see the action and outcome. You attribute their behavior to character rather than circumstances. This fundamental attribution error creates double standards. You forgive yourself while harshly judging others for identical behaviors. Conversely, you also dismiss your achievements as circumstantial luck, while attributing others' success to superior ability. This asymmetry damages relationships and self-esteem. The solution is deliberate perspective-taking. Judge others with the same contextual understanding you give yourself. Hold yourself to the same standards you apply to others. Either direction works. The key is consistency. 60. The final truth about human behavior. Every behavior serves a function even when it appears destructive. People are not broken or irrational. They are solving problems with the tools and information available to them. The alcoholic is managing unbearable pain. The workaholic is avoiding intimacy they never learned to navigate. The people pleaser is preventing abandonment they experienced before. Understanding that all behavior is functional does not excuse harm, but it enables compassion. When you recognize that everyone is doing their best with their current resources, judgment softens. This does not mean accepting toxic behavior. It means recognizing that change requires addressing underlying needs, not just demanding different actions. The person stuck in destructive patterns is not choosing to suffer. They are using the only coping mechanisms they know. Growth happens when we develop better tools, not when we shame people for using inadequate ones.